My friends, hello. Many of you have contacted me about Heathrow Airport. Heathrow Airport is one of the top airports in the world in terms of traffic. It is ranked fourth. First in the United Kingdom, first in Europe, fourth in the world. So it's a major airport, let's say. It is shut down today, completely closed. When you look at Flight Radar 24 and other apps, it's extremely surprising. There isn't a single plane moving, neither at the airport nor in the surrounding area. It is totally in the dark. It's happening today, and it's going to happen over this weekend and probably well into next week. Huge disruptions that will involve 1,350 flights just today. If it continues tomorrow, it will be the same number of flights. And if they open it at reduced capacity, it's an airport, where you're right by the runways. You see planes taking off one after another all day long and arriving one after another all day as well. So even if they reduce the traffic, it's still going to impact millions of people around the world. What happened? So I'd just like to tell you something. People are somewhat surprised by events in the United Kingdom. But what we see with Heathrow is a symbol. It's a symptom of an entire country that is sinking into decay. It's not just Heathrow Airport, it's the whole country that's collapsing. There's money for everything. In fact, what we do is, look, we always end up electing globalists to power. And British globalists aren't like French globalists or the globalists of the European Union. These are people who are completely focused on problems happening abroad. That means you're going to elect someone, and then he'll spend his life talking to you about problems in Ukraine. He'll spend his life talking to you about the climate. He'll spend his life talking to you about what's happening in this or that country. The United Kingdom doesn't interest him. When it comes to the United Kingdom, he'll talk to you about economic realism. He'll tell you, we're not going to print, we can't print money, right? And then there's no money for the country. So at first, these pursuits and ideological flights of fancy weren't visible yet. There was suffering in the United Kingdom, but if you will, it wasn't noticeable. Today, it's starting to become so obvious that it's right in front of your face, you just can't miss it. So what they're saying today in the British media is that the explosion is due to a substation west of London. This substation had a transformer explode. In fact, there are two of them side by side. One of them contains a large tank with 25,000 liters of oil. It's oil-cooled. It's an old model. It's a rather outdated old model that was actually running at 106% of its capacity. That means if you look at the model, it's already old. So you should know something about anything electric and even car engines and such. The older it is, the less likely it is to run at its rated capacity. If, for example, you have, a transformer at home, and it says on it that it's capable of 1,000 watts, that's 1,000 watts when it came out of the factory, and that's not even guaranteed. If you use it for 20 years, it's not certain that after 20 years it will still handle 1,000 watts. It will probably handle 800 or 750. The problem with these transformers is that they are very old. They are from an old generation, first of all. And secondly, they are running beyond their capacity. So what happened is that at some point, bam, it caught fire. And then the transformer next to it was also affected. So the end result, 60,000 households without electricity, and Heathrow Airport plunged into darkness, which is in line, if you will, a bit with what we're seeing today. Because when a country doesn't invest, doesn't modernize its infrastructure, simply because it doesn't have the money, it doesn't have the money. We don't have, if you will, we have money. It's not that there's no money in the country, but there's no money for local problems. There's always money. If, for example, let me just give you an example. If we had to restore a power plant near Kiev that was bombed, that would have been bombed, we would have the money to restore it with the latest technology. If we don't have it, we'll borrow it. It's not a problem, but we'll find it, and we'll find it quickly. We'll find it this week or today if needed. If we need to protect Ukrainian borders, we'll protect the Ukrainian borders. But we're not going to protect the British borders. You see, that's it. It's when you have globalists in charge, they're always looking elsewhere. Your problems aren't theirs. They're not their concern. Something else. And now it's been said it's still too early. There's no investigation yet. We don't know everything yet, of course. So I'm giving you this, maybe with a grain of salt. If you want, it seems that in 2012 they removed the diesel generators. That means we're going to say, okay, a power plant, it can go down, it can happen. There you go. But why isn't there a backup? Why isn't there a system that took over? For example, a diesel generator system that would have at least allowed the airport to open, even if only partially. Maybe they wouldn't have powered everything, but at least there would have been some operations so that we don't go from the fourth busiest airport in the world to absolutely nothing. Actually, it seems that these diesel generators were removed in 2012 for climate reasons. That means if you look at 2012, Hydro got one of the environmental certifications and all that. And then it seems that what happened is that they removed the diesel generators, so resilience is not there. Then it was replaced by biomass. Of course, I'm putting that in quotation marks, right? We'll see in the coming days if this will be confirmed. But honestly, it wouldn't surprise me since I know this country. Last night, I was looking at a document from the British Parliament, an investigation that dates back to 2023. In fact, and it shows that almost 20%, 1 out of 5 houses, 1 out of 5 households in the United Kingdom, well, is on the verge of being unfit for habitation. That means damp, cold, right? There's dampness, cold, and mold. Because after all, we're on an island, we're on a rainy island, we're on an island, we don't get much sunshine, all that. Well, everyone knows the United Kingdom, I mean. Well, instead of investing in this and that, and those are the official numbers, 20%, and if you talk to organizations fighting against poverty and all that, the numbers you hear are more like 1 out of every 3 homes. That wouldn't surprise me. That number wouldn't surprise me. I've been to people's homes in the United Kingdom. Sometimes you see black stains on the walls. You have people living inside wearing heavy jackets, puffer coats, sometimes even hats indoors. It's true that it's quite shocking because once again, it's a country, it's a cold country, right? But it identifies, and this is very serious, it's a cold country, but it identifies as a warm country. It's a very cold country that identifies as a country that's so hot, it's on the verge of dying from high temperatures. That's the idea. So there's what's called the Net Zero Project. It's a project that is backed by both the left and the right. It's a project that hasn't been voted on. There hasn't been a referendum about it. It's a written project that's legally binding in the United Kingdom. We've imposed it on ourselves. In fact, it requires moving toward carbon neutrality by 2050. We don't know how we're going to do it, but in any case, the damage is starting to show in our society because it requires pushing industries abroad. It forces a lot of businesses to close down or go bankrupt, those that can't relocate to China or India. It requires pushing financial flows, industrial flows, the creation of businesses and jobs, all of that abroad. That's the reality. There's no choice. So it's really a civilizational choice because there's no turning back. Once we go back, because the United Kingdom, if you look at the Middle Ages, what was it? A few centuries ago, if you look at the Industrial Revolution, or a bit before that, we were a rainy island. Well, that hasn't changed much. But with people living in poverty, some regions had a life expectancy of 17 years. So once we become what we used to be again, meaning we become poor, I don't see how we could go back. But that's legally enforceable if you want. That's legally enforceable. And there's a consensus between the left and right parties. It's not something you can vote on. There's a consensus. Maybe I'll show you something. There was 2 or 3 days ago a parliamentarian who had a bit of courage and said that net zero won't be possible by 2050. It will make us poor. She said that it will make us poor. And if you look at what the newspaper says, it says she broke the cross-party consensus. That means she broke the consensus by saying that, because there is an absolute consensus. It's literally a state religion. It's a state religion here. It's just, there you go. You can't talk about that whether you're on the left or the right. No, it's net zero, net zero. And they're pushing us down. So we're not investing. We're letting things become outdated. We're shutting things down. We're shutting down energy sources that are resilient, that are reliable, that power entire civilizations and countries around the world. We're shutting them down for costly fantasies. But when we say expensive, it means losing money. But be careful, not everyone is losing money. As for the money, if you look, there's my book behind me, my book on scamology that I recommend to you. Scamology, when you look at it, is literally a looting of taxpayers' money. It's a looting of the public treasury. By people who are specialized. These are ideological, political, financial mafias who are specialized in capturing taxpayers' money. So it's when you see that billions have been lost, it's not money that was burned. We didn't go to a vacant lot and set it on fire. No, because that would warm up the climate. That's not it. It's money that changed hands. And generally, it comes out of the masses who are getting poorer and poorer, who are less and less able to make ends meet, who are heading toward permanent downward mobility. We talk about sustainable energy. We talk, how do you say it in French? It's sustainable. Sustainable, how do you say that in French? But the only sustainable thing, if you will, in this whole story is the downward mobility. Now, the other religion of the country is also, as everyone knows, and if you spend 2 days here, you'll know it, is Russophobia. So now they're accusing Russia. They're accusing Russia of blowing up. Well, I don't even know what they're accusing them of. Does that mean that, is it Russia that prevented us, for example, from ensuring resilience? If we have an airport that's one of the top in the world, it's because it's a critical system. It's that the arrival and departure of planes is a critical activity, right? And if it's a critical activity, then obviously we must have 1, 2, 3 backups, right? We're not going to have a critical system connected to a single power station where the transformers are as old as Methuselah, right? So we imagine if we were in a normal country, but once again, we're not in a normal country. I'm just giving you an example to show you the collapse of the country. We have a migrant, an asylum seeker, who went before a court to contest his expulsion simply because he didn't have a file. His case didn't fall under asylum. The judge, he's Iraqi, the judge granted him asylum and the right to stay because the judge got confused. When he read the guidelines, when he read a little bit about what we do in this or that case, so they have a document for each nationality, for each country. Since the judge confused Iran and Iraq, he doesn't see the difference between Iran and Iraq, the judge, right? Does that give you an idea? A little bit of the collapse of culture, the level of education, the arts, the trades, and even of collective consciousness, I want to say. So the judge confused Iran and Iraq, and so he followed the instructions as if the guy was Iranian and granted him asylum on that basis. Just to tell you that really we are experiencing a collapse. So at that point, don't be surprised, right? If, for example, an airport the size of Heathrow ends up without a backup. So is it Russia that prevented us from having solid backups? Is it Russia that made us afraid by telling us you are a country that's like Saudi Arabia, right? So it's true that in your country, in London, the average summer temperature is 19 degrees in London. It doesn't even reach 20 degrees. We have cities in the north of the country where the temperature in July and August is around 14 degrees on average, July and August. Well, we identify with a country where the temperature is 55 degrees and we're about to die from the heat. And it becomes an existential issue, one that creates consensus between the left and the right. It's so important that we're not even going to consult the people or anything, but we're going to carry it out, as Macron would say, whatever it takes. Today, whatever it takes means a civilization is going down the drain. Today, Heathrow is being completely discredited. Already lately, we were adding climate taxes to plane tickets. We also introduced an entry fee for people who come without a visa, like people from the European Union, for example. They have to register in a system and pay. And actually, what we're doing is that by constantly adding taxes, laws, procedures, but at the same time being unable to ensure normal functioning. Today, there are plenty of people who will be traumatized by the Heathrow story, who won't come anymore, who will actively avoid the United Kingdom when it comes to traveling. It would have been a small airport. We would have lost 25 flights daily, but only a few people would have been affected. But now there are so many people who are affected, them and their families and their children and all that, that honestly, I can see in 10 years, Heathrow dropping to 20th place in the world. Dropping to 20th place? What if it was on purpose? Be careful. When you're in a system like this, especially in the United Kingdom, but it's the same in France, always ask yourself the question when you see a crisis, always ask yourself, make it a habit. It's not only when there's a Heathrow in the dark, you always ask yourself that question. As soon as you see a crisis, you ask yourself, is this crisis not artificial? Isn't it intentional? And if it is intentional, who would benefit from it? Who would profit from the crime? And you'll see that if you ask the question this way, you'll see that. Because essentially, we want to be at war with aviation in the United Kingdom. Basically, By 2050, we don't want any planes. We don't want anything at all. We just want to be here begging Gaia to spare us from the heat, all while shivering from the cold. So ideally, in the future we're planning, there's no place for Heathrow. So, well, there you go. We can think what we want from there. There you go. Thanks for listening this far, my friends. It's when you live in it that you realize, really. Right now, you're seeing a little bit of what happens at your place. It's only when it's big news of that scale. But when you live here, you realize the state of collapse, the state of decay of the roads, hospitals, infrastructure, the lack of investment. There are places where no investment has been made. Even the hospitals, they tell you, you go to the official website and they tell you, yes, we're investing in hospitals, we're building new hospitals. But if you follow the definition, because you have to be careful, we built new hospitals. What does that mean? Their definition, A, they consider that they've built a new hospital if they've built a new hospital ex nihilo, right? From nothing. You see that, that's a new hospital. If we've renovated an existing hospital, like for example, it's raining, right? It's raining inside the building through the roofs. So what do? We repair them. They believe they've built a new hospital. If we've added an extension to an existing hospital, like if, for example, the staff room is a bit too small and we add an extension, they consider that we've built a new hospital. So you see, that's how they cheat with the numbers, you know, the statistics, be careful. So I'm saying, I remember back during the health crisis, I don't know, a minister said, we can discuss everything except the numbers. No, wait, the numbers, we can discuss the numbers, because with numbers, you need to know how they were obtained. What are the definitions? And sometimes the definitions you intuitively associate with the numbers are not necessarily the definitions that are officially, essentially adopted. All right, my friends, I'll leave you here. I'm quite stunned, but what can you do? That's normal in this country. I opened the, what do you call it? The consulting, all right? Today we talked about it at the beginning of the video, but you see, I'm not a born marketer. I'll open them as long as I have time. You can find the calendar in the video description, in the pinned comment. You can have a meeting. We can talk about whatever you want. Immigration issues, nomadism, problems at work, all that, you come and we'll talk about it. Thank you, my friends, for watching this video until now, and I'll see you in the next one if there's electricity or internet by then. See you very soon.